Andy, the floor's yours, son.
I've done this on my iPad because I've changed it so many times on the plane. So hi everyone, my name's Andy and I'm the second best man. This speech was originally just hundreds of stories of me and Joe getting drunk together when we were younger, but that got a bit boring, so I decided to take inspiration from Joe's hair and thin it out a bit. Firstly, I'd just like to say, looking around this room, I find it quite amazing to see just how far some people are willing to travel for a free meal. Quite clearly, no expense has been spared, which is unusual for Joe, as he once faked having a heart attack on a night out in order for me to pay for his taxi to hospital. It was there where he decided it was just heartburn and paid for his taxi home again. As you can probably tell by now, I'm not from around here, which makes being the best man a little trickier than usual. Organising a stag do from halfway around the world was a bit of a challenge, so I'd like to thank the lads, Tom, George, Luke, Andy, Anthony. Have I missed anyone out there? The other Andy. Yeah, that was me. I'm the other Andy. So I'd like to thank the lads because they really helped make it a great night, and that image of Joe in a pink dress will haunt my dreams. I've got that if anyone wants to see it later on. I've only seen Joe a few times in the last 7 years, and I know best man speeches are usually meant to be filled with anecdotes to embarrass the groom, but I've tried to keep them down to a minimum just so I don't bore you all with them. But the one memory that does always spring to mind is of myself, Joe and Luke going on our first road trip. Joe had only recently gotten his first car, and I'm not sure if any of you have ever been in the car with Joe before, but it is absolutely terrifying. We were going to a house party in Nottingham, which is about 3.5 hours drive from Newcastle. Joe took the wrong turn off 4 times, so he arrived there about 2.5 hours later because Joe drives far too quickly. We all got pretty drunk and woke up in the morning very hungover when we realised we couldn't find Joe's car keys. He'd left them on the back seat of his car and somehow managed to lock them in there. After a bit of discussion, we came to the agreement that the best course of action was to put a brick through the back window. It just made sense at the time. He'd only had this car like a couple of weeks, so I'm just thankful I wasn't there when he had to break the news to Rob. There was a bin bag over his back window. As I mentioned earlier, Joe had originally asked a lad we know called Craig to be best man, but unfortunately he wasn't able to make it. I met with him recently to see if he had any stories he wanted me to share, and again there were hundreds of them. I can tell you some of them later on. But this is one that I think best sums up Joe. So Joe was playing rugby for the school, which I'm sure Rob would have loved, being a staunch rugby player. But unfortunately, during a tackle, he somehow managed to break his hand. I've been told it was quite a serious break, but rather than going to A&E, as most people would, Joe went to the pub. Craig had passed his driving test that day, and Joe needed to be there to celebrate, apparently. It's not usually an event you'd celebrate, but it just goes to show how Joe puts his friends above even his own health. On the topic of absent friends, I'd just like to make a quick mention of Sam, Joe's brother, as Rob mentioned earlier on, who can't be here, but I did see him very recently, just before Christmas, and he passed on his love and he's in really good spirits at the minute, and of course we're all thinking of him as well. I've managed to keep in touch with Joe on a regular basis despite him disappearing to Canada, Australia, and eventually settling here in New Zealand, where he's really landed on his feet. He's got a fantastic job, an amazing house, and of course now he's married to a wonderful wife. I won't tell the story, who I'm sure you'll agree looks lovely in her dress. Joe, of course, is used to looking this good in a blazer. He's got enough of them. I've only met Jay a couple of times, but I can already tell she's beautiful, funny, and intelligent, and she suits Joe down to the ground.
Yes.
She also writes a great best man speech. So on a serious note, it has been a genuine honour for me to be involved in today, and I feel privileged that after all these years of living away, Joe had asked me to help celebrate his wedding. even if it didn't come in the form of a serenade on national TV. That's all I've got to say. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to raise your glass and join me in a toast to the wonderful bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. Lane.
Well done, Andy.